You're going to be asked to look at a graph with some shading, and the directions are going to tell you to write the constraints. And all they want, the constraints are going to be each one of these lines. So this one has 3 constraints. We have this line that's causing that shading, that's the border of that shading. We have this dotted line right here, and then we have this vertical line. So we have 3 lines, and we need to write the equations for those 3 lines. 2 of these lines are special cases, and they should be super easy, but for some reason students forget about these easy ones and they just leave them blank. So make yourself some sort of study card or note card or something to help you remember. The easy ones are the vertical and the horizontal ones. So this is let's look at the dotted one. Right here, the one that is horizontal, that is a horizontal line. Here's how you determine the equation for a horizontal line. You ask yourself, which axis is it crossing? This horizontal line is crossing this axis right here. Okay, so which is the y-axis. So since it's crossing the y-axis, the equation or the inequality in this case is going to be a y. And then you simply have to look at where is it crossing the y-axis, and this one's crossing the y-axis at 2. So your inequality is going to contain the variable y because it's crossing the y-axis, and it's going to contain the value 2 because it's crossing the y-axis at 2. Now you need to notice that we shaded above the line, and we can see right here because we shaded above. So since we shaded above the line right here, we are going to know that that means it's greater than. We are not going to put a bar underneath it because what kind of line is that? It's dotted. So the inequality that is going to create this boundary or this constraint is going to be the inequality y is greater than 2. The other one that's really easy to do is this vertical line. Vertical lines are going to have an x value in the equation. Why? Because vertical lines are going to cross the x-axis. So this inequality is going to have an x in it. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to ask ourselves, where is it crossing the x-axis? It's crossing the x-axis at 1. And then we're going to have to ask, is it going to be solid or dotted? It's a solid. We see that it's solid, so we know it's going to have a bar underneath it. And we shaded to the right. Now, normally we say above and below. In this case, vertical lines, we don't say above and below. We say right and left. Since it's shaded to the right, it is going to be greater than. If it had been shaded to the left, it would be less than. So when vertical lines are shaded to the right, it's greater than. If vertical lines are shaded to the left, it's less than. So there's the constraint for that one, for this vertical line right here. And now we've got this line that has a slope. All right, so easiest way to write the equation for this line is to put it in slope-intercept form. So we need 2 pieces of information. We need the slope and we need the y-intercept. The y-intercept should be the easiest one to find. There is where, that's where this line right here is crossing the y-axis. So that has a b value of 9. We notice that the line is going up to the right and down to the left, so we know that that has a negative slope. So we know the slope is going to be negative, and we know it's always going to be a rise over run. So you can pick any point that you want. I think this is a great place to start right here, and we're going to see how far we have to rise and run. And it looks like if we just did this over and over and over, it looks like we're rising 1, running 1. Rising 1, running 1. Do you have to draw all of those? No, but it just makes me more confident the more I draw. So I've gathered the 2 pieces of information that I need. My slope is -1. My y-intercept is 9. So my constraint or my equation is going to be y. it's going to be mx, so the m is a negative. You can put the -1 if you want to, and then plus b. Now, I didn't put the equal sign right there because we see it's not going to be an equal sign. It is a solid line, so we know it's going to have a bar. And then which way did we shade? Notice we're shading down or below the line. So below the line means less than. It's a solid line, so we have the bar. So my three constraints, this system would look like x is greater than or equal to 1, y is greater than or equal to 2, and y is less than or equal to negative x plus 9. If you want to put the 1 in front of that x value, because that slope is -1, you certainly can. We don't usually write it like that. Does it matter what order you write those in? No. Those three constraints could be written in any form. And as a matter of fact, usually the slope-intercept forms will be the one written first, and these vertical and horizontal lines are normally written last, but it makes no difference whatsoever. And lastly, they're going to give you a system. This is a big O system, and they're going to ask you to graph all the constraints and do the shading. So I'm going to start with the slope-intercept. I'm going to go to the y-intercept. It's -5. And I got that from right here. Here's the -5. And then I have a negative equation, a negative slope. So I know my line's going to be going up to the left. I'm going to rise 1, run 2. So from this dot right here, I'm going to rise 1, run 2. And I have to be going to the left because of that negative sign right there. So rise 1, run 2, rise 1, run 2. And I'm going to do that over and over and over until I get enough dots to feel comfortable drawing the line. Okay, I could go back down the other way, rise 1, run 2, go down 1 and right 2. And this line is going to be dotted because there's no bar underneath the inequality. It is greater than, so greater than means it is above, a shade above. So I'm just going to put these little arrows right here. I know I'm going to shade above. I'm not really going to do it right now. I'm just going to wait until I get everything else graphed and then do my shading, but I know I'm going to shade this side of this line. Y means my line's going to cross the y-axis. The Y right here means that I'm going to cross the y-axis. This is telling me I'm going to cross the y-axis at 4. So I go to 4 and put a dot, and I'm crossing the y-axis. This line is going to be solid because of the bar, and the less than means I'm going to shade below. So I'm going to be shading down from this one. Okay, all the way across, I'm shading down. This says X, so that means I'm going to be crossing the x-axis. Where am I crossing the x-axis? At 8. So I go to 8 on the x-axis. I'm crossing the x-axis. So it's going to be a vertical line, and this one is dotted. And the reason that it's dotted is because there's no bar under the inequality. And the inequality is less than, so for less than I go left. So I'm gonna shade, if I was shading everything, I would shade everything to the left. Okay, so everything to the left of this line, left of this line. And then lastly, I have a constraint that crosses the x-axis at -6. It will be solid and will shade to the right. -6, there's where it's crossing. It's a solid line. Ooh, that's really bad. The solid line. and I'm shading to the right. Okay, so the part that I'm actually going to shade is the part where all the arrows are pointing. Okay, so it looks like these are pointing, this one right here, these are pointing in, these are pointing in this way, these are pointing down, these are pointing up. So it looks like I'm going to be shading this section in here. And whoops, I went outside the lines. I'll erase that. So this is the only section that should be shaded. And I need to erase. Oh no, I erased the whole thing. That's so sad. This is the section that should be shaded. Okay. There we go. Much better.